York, Atlanta, Pasadena, Lima. Got it. Okay. Looks like we're going live. Let me just switch this over. Now, today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Now, I'm just gonna shut this down actually. I don't need to share this screen at the moment. What I'm going to do is normally I don't focus on the video of me, but today, and what I'm talking about really isn't one of those things that needs a lot of slides because it really is a different subject. Now, before I start, I just want to apologize in advance. I'm not feeling 100% today. I had my second COVID vaccine yesterday, and I think that may be why what's wrong with me, but I'm just a little bit off my game. So if I'm not 100% switched on, that's why, but I will do my very best. And, you know, I hope that works for you guys. Yeah, I think I'll be fine, Carol. I just, you know, you wake up some days and you don't feel 100%. Today's one of those days. I'm thinking it's the vaccine, but it's also for us, it's winter. So there's colds and flus going around. And I know my wife and one of my kids has had it in the last week. So it's all possible. So anyhow, let's jump into this. Now, the reason I didn't want to talk about slides because I think this is more about a state of mind. It's more about how you tackle the challenges in your business. And I wanted to talk through some of my experience rather than just jump through a bunch of slides. So I've got a couple of slides to remind me what I wanted to talk about. But what I wanted to do was focus on staying motivated. Now, and just refocusing when you really feel like you're struggling. And I know that that is the case for a lot of people. I see it, I hear it from my clients, but I also see it in the Small Wins group for those that are on art storefronts. And it's definitely a challenge. There's no question. Staying motivated every single day, running a business when, you know, on the face of things, it doesn't look like it's working. Now, from that point of view, what I really mean by that is, you know, I'm just going to make a couple of assumptions. I'm assuming that everybody here is trying to build an online business selling either their own art or someone who's close to them, whether it's their partner or you know, a family member or whatever. But you know, they're trying to build a business online selling art, right? And so building a business online selling art is bloody hard. And you'll excuse my Australian language too, sorry, but I think it is. It's really, really hard. And while there are some great tools out there that make life easier for us, those tools don't help us when things aren't working necessarily or when our mental state isn't where it should be. And that's what I wanted to focus on. I know certainly the most of the people here today are on art storefronts. The majority, maybe there's a few that aren't, the majority are. And, you know, it's a really good system. There's some really good marketing. There's been great support. And, you know, personally having come from Shopify, I think it is a really good environment to help you grow your online business. And the support that you get both from the ASF team and your fellow artists and photographers within the group. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of people that have done collaborations working with others, but I think that the support is really important. And it's really something you can't underestimate. But that support has a downside as well. And, you know, I had this conversation with someone last week and he's gone, you know, I've been on the system for 4 months. I've been doing everything, but nothing's working. And when we talked about what's not working and what isn't working, and we'll get into that. But I think the thing was that he was expecting that day one, he was going to start making money. And I think that expectation, whether it's something that happens from the sales team or whether it's not something that's really talked about when you're going online, you know, I knew when I started my business back, it was 2013 now, so 8 years ago. I knew that first year or two, I wasn't going to make any money. Okay. And I think that is a realistic expectation for 99% of artists that are moving from, working with galleries to working art shows to working online, that first year or two is going to be really, really hard. You're going to invest a ton of money, whether it's a couple of grand in art storefronts, or you're going to invest money in marketing and advertising and go all in. And I certainly did that. My first 3 years, I probably invested 50, 60 grand in my business, in shows, in traveling. I came from Australia to the States and did 2 shows in New York, right? That's an expensive exercise for an Australian artist. It's a really expensive exercise, but it was something that I thought I needed to do to help me build my business online, right? Over time, what I've worked out is that the key to building a good business online isn't about other people helping you necessarily. Certainly, there's always time to hire experts, and I have done that throughout my business. Hiring experts to help you get over the next step or to help you go in the right direction. But I think at the end of the day, the challenge, which is the good thing and the bad thing, is the best way to sell art is to be yourself, right? And to let people get to know you as an artist and as a person. And through getting to know you and yourself and your art, you build a following that way. And that is the most solid way to build an online art business. Now, if you go and do a show, it's really easy to build relationships with people quickly, right? But if you go and do a show, face-to-face show, let's say you do an art fair, if you have a good day, you might talk to 30 people in a day. You'll be absolutely exhausted after talking to those 30 people, but you've started a connection, built a relationship with 30 people. Hopefully, if you've been smart about it, you've made sure you've collected those people's email address or contact details so that you can continue that relationship further down the track. And that certainly was one of the hard lessons that I learned really, really quickly. Was every time you do a face-to-face show, make sure you've got a way to collect people's collect people's email address and their name in particular. And doing a fishbowl giveaway is the way to do that. But what I also worked out along the way is that doing the fishbowl giveaway style thing online works as well. And it's a good starting point, but that's not what I want to talk about. So we start a business, we get a website going, and we start promoting it. And in our mind, nothing's happening, right? Nobody's buying anything. People are looking, nobody's buying, right? And I don't know how many times I've had this conversation. I really have lost count of how many times I've had this conversation, but that is exactly what should happen. Okay. And I think that's part of the problem, is people are expecting something different to happen. And I certainly expected something different to happen. I got my website built. I spent some money on Facebook ads, said, here's my stuff, go and buy it. And nothing happened, right? My first year, I can honestly tell you straight up, I sold 2 prints. And those 2 prints were to one person and someone I already knew. And that is my first year's income. It was $2,500. That was my whole entire first year's income. 2 prints to one person. Okay. And it's someone I knew. It took 2.5 years for me to start getting regular income coming through my website. Now, part of that was the learning curve for me. Part of that was that Shopify really isn't a great place to sell art. It's a great place to start, but I think something like art storefronts or another platform that's focused on art sales makes life easier for you, but it's not the solution. Okay. The solution is always, and I don't know how many times I've said this. I've said it so many times that I know there's people in this room that have a drinking game about this. The solution is relationships, right? Sounds ridiculous. Sounds like it's something that sometimes you can't get your head around it. But when you remember, if you take it back to a face-to-face art show or a face-to-face gallery opening, the connections that you make when you're standing in front of someone, having a conversation with someone, is where your sales come from. It's exactly the same when you're online. It's just harder because you can't create an easy relationship with someone when you're sending them emails or putting posts up. It takes time, but it's exactly the same process. So how do we stay motivated when we feel like that stuff isn't working? So I wanted to talk through some of the things that I think are important to focus on work through some of the challenges, but at the same time, just understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The problem is that the tunnel's a lot longer than you thought it was. Okay. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. This is going to the first year is going to be really tough. The second year will still be tough. Be a little bit easier than the first year because you're getting your feel for it and you're working really well. And the third year is when you'll start to see real results. So I had a really interesting conversation last week with someone, and I've got, where is the slide? Okay. This is the point that I wanted to make, right? So when you're selling online, it's going to be hard, and that short term, there's not going to be a lot of money coming in. So if you've already been selling offline, and there are ways in that offline business for you to make more income, then you need to look at those and identify those opportunities as well, right? And the reason I say that is, and I won't say this person's name, but they'll know who I'm talking about. So last year they sold $4,000 worth of work online, which is fantastic in the first year online. Most people don't sell anywhere near that. This year they're looking to do double that, right? And they're on their way, right? Now, doubling that income is not easy, right? But it is possible. But in the meantime, is there any easy money available in their business? Right? Now, we had one conversation last week, which just stunned me, and it's not stunning me because I was surprised. I'm just surprised that galleries are still doing this, right? Now, they were told by galleries that they can't advertise commissions on their website, okay? They're not going to be selling, they can't sell commissions directly to their clients on their website. The gallery told the galleries, some of the galleries they're working with told them that. So they've accepted that on face value, and I get that because gallery relationships are really, really important. But when we put it in context, they got a commission for a $16,000 painting, right? The initial referral came through a gallery. And because that initial referral came through the gallery wants 50% of that commission, right? So the gallery's done nothing but send that person to you, and they want 50%, which is $8,000. That's double last year's income online. Now, is that easy money to chase? Is that easy money to be chasing elsewhere, right? The online game is hard. So one of the things that you need to look at both in the short term and the long term is to have a few strings to your bow. If you could pick up 2 or 3 commissions in a whole year that you're able to sell directly to your clients, you're doing 2 really cool things to your business, right? And I saw a question about this yesterday, and I was just staggered by that question, and I'll come to that in a moment. But the 2 really cool things is, one, you're injecting direct income into your business. That's a lot easier to get than doing, 100 or 200 sales online. Okay, one commission could probably cover the income from up to 50, 60 or 100 sales online. But 2, really, really importantly, you're starting a conversation and you're building a relationship with someone who is not only just a customer, but a potential collector. If someone's going to spend serious money on a commission, there's a good chance they're prepared to spend that money again in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years' time. Right? And the question I saw the other day was, why would you add someone who bought something from you offline in an art show to your email list or to your website? And the reason for that is simple. Because you want to keep coming back to them. You want to build a relationship with them, because if they bought something from you once, there's a good chance they're going to buy it from you again, right? And when someone has built enough trust in you to spend $5,000, $10,000 on an original, then there's a good chance they want to buy another one in the future. We had someone last week spend $6,000 on some prints, right? They already own some originals, but the original that they wanted has already been sold, and they're prepared to spend $6,000 on a print to get to having that picture in their home because they can't have the original. It's just staggering. But the relationship that you build with those potential people is huge. So you need to have those conversations. You need to look at your business. Don't just look at chasing that money online, because the online money is really, really important. But there are easy wins elsewhere in your business that you need to pick up along the way, because at the end of the day, you've got to pay your bills, right? And I made the decision very early in my business. And we actually sat down and had a conversation about this, my wife and I hired a business coach right at the beginning of my business. And we decided on day one that while I wanted to be a professional artist as a landscape photographer, my first role was going to be as a business owner, right? And if someone said to me, hey, John, I really love that picture, but I want to do this to it, as long as it wasn't so outrageous that it changed it so that it was no longer my work, then the answer was always yes. Because more important to me than worrying about my artistic view on something was that I wanted food on the table for my kids and my family. Okay, so sometimes you need to make business decisions that may not necessarily sit perfectly with you as an artist in the short term, but if you're looking at the long-term strategy, you need to look at opportunities that are maybe uncomfortable. And that was the conversation we had last week. Telling a gallery, no, we're going to do commissions. If you don't like that, then maybe we shouldn't be working together, is a really, really, really uncomfortable situation. There's no question about that. If you've got a long-term relationship with that gallery, then that's not good. But if it means the difference between $8,000 in your pocket or $8,000 in their pocket, I'm personally going to have that uncomfortable situation, uncomfortable conversation, because I'd rather have that money in my own pocket, right? Putting food on the table for my family rather than their family, right? And the thing is also right now, and it's a little bit different in the States to Australia because things have opened up a little bit more in the States than they have here, but certainly the relationship between artists and galleries has changed. They need you more than you need them, right? When they control the relationship with the buyer, you're at a disadvantage. When you control the relationship with the buyer, you're absolutely advantaged. So you want to find ways to switch that around to make your life easier, because selling online is hard and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So you need to find ways to bring money into your business, understanding that this is a long-term strategy, not a short-term win. Okay. So that's where I wanted to start. Now, I wanted to go back to my original question. So we all have low spots, right? We have days where we feel like we're an imposter, with weeks, months, sometimes even we feel unworthy. So how do we drag ourselves out of that, right? Now, there's a couple of really simple things you can do. And some of them, you've probably heard them before and you've probably gone, oh yeah, maybe, but whatever. The reality is that sometimes, and I know that I've done this with COVID, is I just don't watch the news anymore, right? I feel a lot better because I don't watch the news anymore. If you think that when you're seeing in a place, whether that's in small wins or on Facebook or in one of the artist groups that you're a member of, all you're seeing is negative stuff, stop doing it, right? Just walk away. Even if you only walk away for a few days or you walk away for a month, but if something's dragging you down, stop doing it. Instead of doing that, go and paint, go and draw, go for a walk, okay? But you need to get back into your artistic self and you're focusing on your work, right? And instead of worrying about marketing tools and all these huge tips, tricks, and things that people say really work, just focus on creating and sharing with the people that you know like your work. Share that with them, okay? Share some behind the scenes, share some of the stories, share some of your highs and your lows. You don't need to get really personal, but you can certainly tell people what's going on in your life. I used this example in a webinar a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me for a sec. I was really lucky. I managed to get away for a week's holiday with some family and friends right before everything shut back down over here in Australia. And so the purpose of my week was to spend some time away traveling with family and friends. So that was the focus of the week. So I had, I included in my email that week a selfie with me and my, 16 other people that we traveled with together, traveling on a ferry where we're taking our cars over to the place we were going. And then I told them about the week and finished with the 2 photos that I took in the entire week, right? I got my camera out twice, had 2 photos. So I shared those 2 photos. I wasn't trying to sell those photos. I don't even have those photos on my website yet, but I wanted to tell the story because that's an appropriate story. And that helps reset the situation for me. And when you're feeling like things aren't working, go back to basics. Forget about Facebook, forget about Instagram, forget about all the things that are really frustrating you. Just go and create and share something that you're creating without reading any of the gump or the other stuff that goes along with that, okay? And I know sometimes it's hard to stop and not look at all of those things, and Facebook can be a black hole. Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, they can be a black hole, and you can lose hours just scrolling through stuff. My suggestion would be post something and walk away, close the window, don't even have it up on your computer. If it's causing you stress, don't do it. That simple. Okay. So when you're feeling like things aren't working and things are dragging you down, go back to basics, focus on your creative process, and ignore those things that are dragging you down. If that means you ignore Facebook for a little while, or Instagram, or you ignore small wins, or you ignore all of the things that are doing you damage, do that. Okay. You need to come back to them at some stage, but you can ignore the key things and just get to a place where you're feeling happier and healthier about yourself. And that's going to help you with your business. Because at the end of the day, and yeah, I left this slide in, and I used this slide previously, but I'm going to put it back up. And honestly, this is the one thing that I really think is important, is absolutely never give up in your business, okay? If you know that your art doesn't suck, that people like it and people are buying it outside of your friends and family, then don't ever give up, right? It sounds too easy. It sounds like it's just a, catch cry, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, I can absolutely tell you that never give up has been something that has dragged me through some of the dark times. Okay. So the other side of things is when you're not happy and things aren't working for you, talk to someone who you know can help you and can inspire you. Okay. Whether it's a friend or a family member, someone who's in a completely different business, right? But someone who you look up to, and have a conversation with them and have that moment where you say, hey, I'm not coping. These are the issues that I've got going on and I don't know what to do, right? But having those conversations with the people that, that you respect and that you're prepared to listen to and get the advice of those people, I think is really, really important when you're feeling in a negative space and you're feeling down. Okay. It may be the time when you're the most creative, when you're not feeling great, but at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to lift yourself back up, because having art is important in your life, but having an art business is more important in your life. If this is the way you want to go for your personal and professional life in the long term, then you need to find a way to come back to the business and to focus on the business. So having conversations with the right people is really, really, really important for you. Okay. Now, imposter syndrome is just something I want to talk about really quickly. I think there's a lot of people that feel that they're not worthy, their art's not worthy, and they shouldn't be in the room, right? For 99% of people, that's garbage, right? There may be 1 or 2 people who really shouldn't be in the room, but the reality is for 99% of people that you should be in the room. Your work has value, and those of you that are on art storefronts, you all know Patrick, and Patrick has a rather interesting way to phrase things sometimes. And it was back in the days before I signed up for art storefronts, and I didn't sign up straight away because I couldn't afford the big jump, because it was a lot of money in Australian dollars, because everything was being paid for in US dollars. But I listened to every single podcast that Patrick ever did before the days of the live streams. He used to do podcasts all the time. And he did a podcast which was really, really simple. And the question was, does your art suck? Right? And it was a way to see whether you were going in the right direction and whether you were banging your head against a brick wall. And the simple answer to that question was, have you sold your art to someone who doesn't have the same surname as you, doesn't live in the same house as you, or didn't go to school with you? Right? If the answer to that question is yes, and you've done that a few times, then your art doesn't suck. Right? So you need to then believe in you and your art, and then focus on the other things, which are the things that are dragging you down, which is understanding how to build a business rather than understanding how to just create. And I think there's a big difference between artists who sell and artists who are great creators. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, people think that you have to be an amazing artist to sell lots of work. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think there's a lot of quite good, not necessarily bad artists, but quite good artists out there that make a really good living. But there are a lot of brilliant artists out there who don't make a good living because they're not able to sell their art, because they're not able to communicate. Okay. And this comes down to communication. You need to be able to share your story, share your challenges. And, you know, we're not expected as artists to be, you know, professional marketers. We don't have to have everything looking amazing. Emails shouldn't be perfect. They shouldn't look like they were written by a team of 10 marketers. I hope you still got me. I just saw my computer lose the internet. Can someone confirm me? Okay, I'm still here. Thanks, Carol. Okay, great. Awesome. I just saw that I dropped off for a sec. Okay, so, you know, I really think that there are a lot of artists out there that are quite okay artists that are doing really well. And there's a lot of brilliant artists out there that are doing really badly. And the difference is that those that are doing really well are understanding that this is a business, and that when you're running a business, you need to make business decisions first. Okay, the art is really, really important, but there's no point having a house full of art that you can't sell. Okay. And I remember, for me, one of the business decisions I made really early when I was first in the game, I figured that I had to get everything printed before I started. So I used to have lots and lots of prints. And at one stage I had 50 grand worth of prints lying around my house. And I realized that that was just ridiculous. So I actually don't carry any stock at all. And, you know, the fulfillment model works really perfectly for that, because at the end of the day, I want to invest my money in building the business, not on holding stock. Now, if you've got a gallery, you're working with a gallery, obviously you have to do that. And if you've got originals, then obviously you're going to carry work. There's no question about that. But you don't need to be investing in extra inventory for the sake of investing in inventory. Focus on best building the business. So when we're down, talk to people who we know and we trust. Be realistic, okay? And I think that the realistic thing is one of the things that a lot of people get challenged with, right? Your first year online, you're not going to make 50 grand. So if you set that up as a goal, you're going to fail, okay? You need to have a realistic goal. What did you sell online last year? Let's start by doubling that this year, okay? Now, if you only sold $500, then that's $1,000. Doesn't sound like a lot, but doubling something is a lot, okay? So be realistic and then adjust. And I think the adjustment's really, really important. If you decided that this year you were going to make $5,000 online, and we're in August right now, and you've made $4,050, now you're not going to stop when you get to 5,000 and say, yes, I got it and I'm done. What I would be doing is saying, okay, if my goal was 5,000 and I'm already there, and August realistically is not halfway through the sales year, I think you get to sort of sometime in September, and that's about half of your sales for the year. The January to September is about half of your sales, and the October to December is the other half of your sales. So if you think you're going to get to your target in September, then I would double your target again, okay? And I would much rather have a target that's up here that's so high that it's scary, and just miss that a little bit and have a target that's set down so low that I'm going to get it no matter what I do. Right. So adjust your target. If you're going to achieve it, adjust it. If you think you're going to miss it by a mile, then maybe adjust it down a little bit. Don't adjust it so low that you're going to get there anyway. No matter what you do, you want to be able to reach. If you're not reaching for something, then it's really hard to then keep going. And personally, I like going for a moonshot. I've talked about Natalie's work, many, many times. And this year, our goal for Natalie's business is to do $200,000 online. Now, we're not halfway there yet, right? There's no question about that. But I am still focused on doing 200 grand for this calendar year. If I miss it, I'm going to miss it by a little bit. If I go for it, then I might get it. Okay. So that's the attitude that I have when we run a business, is to focus on the big picture, focus on something big. And then you need to break that down, because if you only focus on the big number, then everything else becomes really hard. And I talked about this before, and I know, this is exactly why ASF call the Facebook group Small Wins, right? You have to celebrate the little tiny wins, okay? A great Facebook post, some really good engagement, hitting 500, 1,000, 5,000 on your Facebook, getting, the same sort of numbers when you on your email list. All of those things add up, because the one thing in the short term you're not going to see is a lot of income. So you want to see that those other things are moving in the right direction, and using those other things in the right direction to help you identify that you're going in the right way. Okay. So, and being realistic that this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So don't expect things to happen overnight. Keep your goals, keep your focus really simple. Okay. Focus on the things that you know you can control, and the things that you can't control, don't get stressed about them. And this is a really important mindset one. Now, I see people complaining about this every single week in Small Wins. And I'm at the point now where I might as well just bang my head against the wall, right? Now, what I mean by that is, people 3 years ago, 2 years ago, maybe even, if you put a post on Facebook, a bunch of people would see it, right? Today, it's a completely different situation. Now, people complain about that's changed, right? The reality is you can't change it. So why worry about it? Just move on, accept it as something that is, and just go, okay, I can't do anything about the way Facebook treats my posts, right? But what I can do is I can make sure that I'm consistent. I'm posting every day. I'm posting quality content every day. And I'm going to work hard to build my audience by being consistent, by sharing quality work and quality, peeks behind the scenes, things that people are interested about you and your work, okay? Except that sometimes they're going to fall flat, right? I don't look at individual post numbers. I just don't. I don't have time for it, but I also don't have the headspace to worry about that sort of stuff. What I do look at, and you can all do this, and let me bring it up so you can see it, is you can go to your Facebook page and look at whether you did better this month than last month. Okay? That's something that is in your control. So you can have a look and say, okay, did I do more posts last month? Yes. Did I get more engagement from my people? Yes, right? So that's something you can monitor, and that's something you can easily have a look at to see if you're going in the right direction. But you're not arguing and fighting with Facebook, because you're going to lose, right? So just accept that some things you can't control, and the things that you can't control, just move on, okay? Because arguing about those things, getting upset about those things, doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. All it does is makes you upset, okay? And it drags you down in a way that doesn't help you build your business. And I think that this is one of the big challenges that artists have, is purely getting focused on stuff that they can't control. Okay, now this isn't going to work for me. So I'm happy to have some conversations about that, but I just think that the reality is, this is the new Facebook. I don't like the new Facebook because it doesn't give you the comparative like the new and the old. Let me have a look. So, but you know, the reality is, focus on the things you can control and ignore the things you can't. Because if you get stuck in the things that you can't, then all you're doing is getting upset. You're dragging yourself down. You're affecting your own mental health, and you're not helping your business. I hope that makes sense, because I think it really is a big challenge for a lot of artists to get past that. You know, you just need to accept some things, and you know, even if they're crap and they're things that you don't want to accept, sometimes you just need to suck it up and say, okay, I get this. Now, there's nothing I can do about it, so let's just move on. Okay, let me have a look at this one. Can I see it? Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. So let me share this page, share screen. This one. Right. Okay. So this is my personal business page, right? Instead of looking at, I'll just go to the last month. So you change up here from last 7 days to last month, right? Instead of looking at these numbers, right, what I look at is the colors, right? And I can see a lot of red, right? So that tells me that I haven't been doing what I need to on my Facebook page in the last month. I have been posting daily, but what I haven't been doing, because I've been busy in other things, is I haven't been engaging. So if I'm not engaging, then people aren't engaging back with me, right? That has a direct effect on my business. So can I change that? Absolutely. So what do? Is I spend some more time on my Facebook page. I thank people for their comments. I ask them questions, and I engage with my audience. That's how I turn those numbers around, right? Arguing with Facebook isn't going to help me turn those numbers around. Okay, does that make sense? What is responsiveness? I can't even see responsiveness. Where are you seeing responsiveness, Hammer? Help me out. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Let's keep moving. I don't want to get dragged down on this because I don't think it's really important. I think it is one of those things that you just need to accept what you've got to accept and move on and focus on the things that you can help, right? So you can't argue with the algorithm, let it be. You can whinge about it, but whinge about it for 10 seconds, then move on. Do not waste any more time in your life stressing about something that you cannot control, okay? And I think that's probably the most important lesson when you come through all of this, is that there are things you can control those that you can't control, move on, right? Build a bridge, because you don't have time and you don't have the headspace to get distracted on stuff that really doesn't matter, okay? Celebrate the wins, the little tiny wins, the really huge wins. If you get a commission, shout it from the rooftops and say, thank you, I'm really excited, right? And tell your audience about a commission, because maybe someone in your audience has been thinking about giving you a commission and they didn't know that you did them, right? So tell people, if you want to grow, you need to share your stories with your audience, okay? That means that when you hit a point, you get 500 people following you on Facebook, put a post up and say, thank you. I've just reached 500 Facebook followers. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, right? Celebrate those wins yourself, but also with your audience as well, because they want to see you succeed. You're trying to get them to fall in love with you and your art, right? So they want to see you succeed, and you need to give them the opportunity to help you succeed, right? So if they can help you, they might share that. They might share a post to someone that's never seen your work before and turns around and says, oh my God, I love that. I want you to do this for me. Can you do it? Okay. So you just don't know. And I'm going to jump back on a story because I know I've talked about this in the past, but I think it's really, really important to remember never to underestimate someone. Now, back in a former life, now today, that's nearly 20 years ago, I was a professional fundraiser. So I worked for our state library, which is, while it's a government organisation, they have a not-for-profit arm to do some of the things that the government doesn't pay for. And I was the director of fundraising there. And I had a policy when I was in the office and someone came into the office personally to hand over cash or a check. If I was in the office, they would be introduced to me. And my policy was, I didn't care whether it was a $5 check or a $10,000 check. If someone took the time to come into our office to hand over a donation, then as long as I was available, I wasn't already on a call or I wasn't with someone, my staff would knock on my door, introduce the person, and then offer them a cup of tea or coffee, and we sit down and have a conversation. All right, that was the policy, and all of my team knew that that was what we had to do. So one day, I had a little old lady come in and she brought me a check for $5. Okay. We sat down, we had a cup of coffee, we had a chat, had a biscuit, and half an hour later she left, and that was all good. And, she got her receipt for her donation, and that was the end of it. A month later, she came back again, this time with a $500 check. We sat down, we had a cuppa again, had a chat, and she went on her way. The next month she came back with $5,000. Now, if my policy had been at the time that I only sit down with someone who has donates $100 or $500, I wouldn't have got that $5,000 donation. I guarantee you, right? She gave the $500 donation because we built a relationship and she felt comfortable doing that. Same applies with your art, right? Just because someone spends $5 and buys a greeting card doesn't mean that they're not prepared to turn around and buy a $10,000 original at some stage in the future. Treat all your clients the same. Build relationships with them, because you just don't know where those people are going to come from, those ones that are going to surprise you. But the other thing is, and I was looking at this the other day, I have clients now in both of our businesses on art storefronts where we've got people who have bought 4, 5, or 6 times, right? Some of them, the average purchase may only be $50. But if someone's buying $50 6 times, that's $300 worth of income that's in my pocket. Okay. So it's those little amounts all add up as well. So it's really, really important to appreciate the small things, have those conversations where you can, and replying to comments on Facebook, replying to emails that people send you are a really good place to start those conversations. And honestly, once you start looking for the little wins, right, the little tiny wins, the little wins build up and things snowball. So, you might say, oh, today we've got 500. That's fantastic. Oh, tomorrow you sell a $50 print. That's awesome. Celebrate that. And what I found is that success breeds success. The more that you focus on being grateful and thanking people and telling your story, the more the income comes in. Okay. When I stop and I focus on, oh my God, I need to make $1,000 this week to pay the bills, I make nothing because I've got the wrong focus and the wrong attitude. When I tell stories and I engage with people, I sell stuff. When I just try and sell stuff, I sell nothing. Okay. So it's really, really important to not let your frustration come through when you're having conversations with your audience, but also, just focusing on those little things helps you focus on the bigger things down the track. Okay. There's no question this is all about mindset, right? The more that you focus on the things that you can influence and that you think about things in a positive way, the more positive things happen for you in your business. If you decide that things are going to fail, then your answer is always going to be correct. If you think it's going to fail, it will fail. But if you plan for it to succeed and you do everything in your power for it to succeed, 9 times out of 10, it will, right? It may not succeed the way you thought it was going to succeed, and it may not succeed in the timeline that you expected, but you will get there. But you need to invest the time and the effort and the focus in making things feel the right way for you and for your audience. Because if you feel crap and you tell people you feel crap, then that works both ways. And, you know, that isn't necessarily a good thing for you or your business. So if you have the opportunity to turn something that may not be a good thing into a positive light, even if it's in a small way, that does help you, and it makes a big difference to your business. Now, I could keep talking, and I don't want to keep talking because I am really starting to feel it now. So I think the key message that I want you to take away from today is never give up. All right. If you know your work will sell, never, ever give up. Focus on the little things and make those changes that you can make. If you've got easy money in your business that can help you get through the next 6 months, the next 12 months, then chase that easy money while still spending time online. Okay, because that easy money will make your life a lot easier. When something isn't working or something's dragging you down, stop and walk away. Go and paint, go and walk, go do something that you really enjoy. Spend time with your dog, spend time with your partner, whatever it needs to be to get you back in a better frame of mind. Because if you're not in a good frame of mind, it's not going to work anyway, right? So just stop and walk away. You're better off doing that than anything else. When it comes to focusing on where you're going in your business, keep it simple and understand that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. What you've always underestimated is the length of the tunnel. Okay. It's going to happen. It's just a question of time. If you do all of the work and you invest the time in your business and in yourself and focusing on the things that you can affect and ignoring the things that you can't. Okay. And I think that ignoring the things that you can't affect is a huge difference to your mindset. So many people get dragged down by stuff that they have absolutely no chance of changing, right? And if you've got absolutely no chance of changing it, then get over it. And that may sound harsh, but honestly, you're wasting your time worrying about something you can't change. So you accept it and you move on. Now, I'm going to finish up in a moment. I'm going to finish early today, which is unusual, which is, you know, also good. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think that that's important to tell part of your story, June. I wouldn't necessarily go into the details of it, but tell them that you've had some time off from the business and this is why, and you're recovering and you're moving on, right? I think it's really important for people to get to know you as a person as well as an artist. So if there are important parts of your story that affect the way you create or they affect the way you run your business, share them, okay? Tom has just commented. Thanks, Tom. I'm friends with Tom on Facebook as well. So I see he does these cute little videos. He's always catching his wife out doing something, and they're always really funny. But he brings comedy into you know, what is not necessarily a good situation. So if you can find ways to make light of something that isn't good and make people smile, even if it's only for a moment, people remember that stuff. So take the time to share things that are important to you and, you know, just find ways to share, you know, the good things. And, you know, you don't have to share all the bad things, but I think it's important to your story for people to understand what's going on in your life, even if it isn't something that's, you know, necessarily critical to your art. But I think, you know, it's part of the backstory and that's important. So I'm going to finish up. If there's no more questions, that's cool. What I'm going to say is those of you who are thinking about my 90-day audience builder program, and I know, you know, we've always got one or two people who are always interested. If you're interested in joining our 90-day audience program in August, if you do that in August, we will give you, I will give you a one-on-one session where we will talk specifically about mindset, setting goals, and everything that relates to your business directly. So if you're interested, I'll share the link in the thing in a moment, and I'll also share it by email. But if you're interested in the 90-day program, you'd like to do a one-on-one session as well, we're offering that for free. Okay. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all your great comments today and the feedback. It hasn't been easy today, but I really appreciate it. And you have a great day. I'll catch you later. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.